Hello and welcome to Introduction to Information Technology 2. My name is Sirovan Stix Roring and I'm your lecturer for this course. This is a course for Hangden Unitin Fellowship Program which tries to contribute material and education globally. And this is our first meeting. Hopefully we are going to be a great friend in this course. And for today, we are going to discuss about the concept of innovative and creative uses of IT. Let's begin. Before we start with the main discussion about the uses of IT, we should know that today IT has become a major use in almost every field in the society, whether this is for personal or even to the business type of interest. For example, in communication, we are using email, we are using social media and various chat tools, or we also known as messenger, such as WhatsApp, such as Line, Telegram, or any other chat tools that currently popular in our country. For example, in Indonesia, we are currently use WhatsApp, and because of the maximum capacity problem, we also use Telegram. But uh, observe observing from all kind of the popularity, some of other country as well have its own favorite chat tools. How about your country? Does your country uses the same popular chat tools as well? Anyhow, the principle of communication itself has become one of the core in the society. The uses of IT make things different. Even in our media, we try to digitalize them, and we usually use words like digital media or multimedia. For example, as a part of digital media, we have text, we have audio, we have picture as well. And the most popular one, it's also the form of a picture, but it is a moving picture, which we call videos. I know some of you might be familiar with social media like TikToks, who use almost all of the media in terms of video. We are liking, we are sharing cool videos, interesting video, and viral one. And that has become one of our primary entertainment. It's the third one. But if we knew, we also use digital media as one of our primary media for education. Even though that we know, even in our current situation in the pandemic, digital media won't really good comparison to the conventional way, which is face-to-face meeting, because some of us doesn't have the capacity to develop our education using digital media. We still need some human cares. We still need some human empathy. That's why we do face-to-face meetings, to encourage us to get what we need in education. That's why digital media has become one of the primary need in education as well. But even though that we know its weakness, we still need it. We still need it, the digital media itself. Morefully, we recommend to use digital media as a combination with our conventional face-to-face meetings in education. The third one of the utilization itself is the main source of entertainment, because IT is known as the current generation as one of its main source, especially in pandemic where we can't go anywhere. We only have IT. which is making us a big opportunity. IT has become one of the primary economic thing that give us a new creation, give us a new industry, which is called the IT and creative industry, where someone become a creator, uh, someone called an Instagram celebrity, social media celebrities. It become a big new world in today's activity. So that's why this IT could potentially become big in the future. It has been big since the last past years, but it could be even bigger. And that's why we need to make sure that we are still engaged through the use of IT. And that's why I want to introduce us today for the creative practice using IT. So we all know that social media such as this one, such as Facebook, such as TikTok, this has become one of the creative practice in IT. And here comes the question, why we need a creativity in IT? Doesn't we have enough? Doesn't IT innovation itself is enough to make sure that we prosper? And the answer is we may take a look on Facebook. Today, use of Facebook has become more and more decreasing comparing to the first year in, if I remember correctly, 2018, 2008, where Facebook first known globally. Comparing to now, Facebook has decreased in the number of user. Because why? Because even though that they have the innovation, they even have the creativity, it still doesn't enough comparing to the new media, because the flow of the society itself is almost impossible to measure. That's why in terms of technology, we can't make sure that creativity and innovation is enough. That's why even though that we think that we are going to be prosper using technology as it has become, it won't be enough. Even something like Facebook that changed name into Meta, he has been they have been implementing creativity and innovation, but they still lose to the newcomers such as TikTok. Because of why? Because of the human needs and the society itself that I explained before. It is immeasurable. It could be something that we call better recipes, not just more cooking. Because if we are trying to do the same recipe again and again, it won't be enough to face the future of the technology itself. That's why the answer of why creativity in IT is because creativity is a crucial role in various culture, which also give personal, social, educational, and invention. Even this isn't enough. There is still a lot of model, a lot of variables that could make something in IT become successful or it would be forgotten. In my era, we have Friendster, we also have Yahoo, and you can see right now there even almost no trace left except for Yahoo. But slowly it become less and less popular. That's why we need to make sure that IT are given in a good way. using the creativity and also innovation. Let me give you a more example. So we have what we call information technology and creative practice. It produces a great result, such as in term of field of optical. If you observe our eyeglasses to help us see, such as me, are even thinner. Usually when people have bad eyes, they would have a lot of thick glasses, which also contributes to unpopular look of eyeglasses. But now, with the support of IT and the creative practice, we now have a thinner glasses, which is also a good thing to be used for our look. In chemical, we have chemical that we use with less side effect, even no side effects at all, and of course it's eco-friendly. We now have biodegradable plastic that almost the same thing with paper, almost the same thing with paper that degenerates when it's not used, and it's a eco-friendly material. In photography, we now have better picture quality and even better manipulation in image. We can see our faces become better in camera. In culture, now IT has become one of the reason we have work from home and remote job. It's true that many years earlier this is available, but not to all people of all over the world. But with the opportunity in this pandemic area, work from home has become one of the favorite things that the society likes to do. Even the businessman itself, they like to uh, they like to use work from home as one of the expenses for their business. There won't be more expensive if we are doing work from home. There will be no electricity bill. We don't have to pay for building for our office, and uh, the worker itself is happier because they are close with their family, with their friends, and they can do work flexibility, and also this work from home become a better and productive kind of culture that, according to study, it increase the productivity of the worker itself. So that's why this would be one of the main implementation that we should look after. And today I would also like to discuss you how we can implement ITCP. We can start from the strategy itself. For example, this is one of the uh, example from Startup Digital. If you may know that startup is one of the innovation and creative way to try to create a new business using IT. This is from Indonesian government called 100 Startup Digital. They're trying to make a collaboration in terms of teams. So from their description, we have three main position that should be able to be used in startup. They say that we need someone who have hacker ability, we need someone who has hipster ability, and we need someone who has hustler ability. But this is not limited to a person, because these three positions could be attained by only one people if necessary. So for example, the hacker itself is someone who knows IT. He can code, he can program, he can make an application that help the startup itself. They also need a hipster that have the art sense, can draw, can make a good looking picture or video or something that contributes to the art. And they think that we also in a startup team need a hustler who is good at talking, who love to influence people by his communication way. That is one of the example of the strategy in 100 startup digital. So strategy is an important thing because it could lead to possible sustainable business and also in startup. So ITCP can also be started with lot of approach. So not only this kind of strategy, but we can try to experiment ourselves with this strategy. We could try to make oh, I can start with myself. I don't need to be a hacker. I can pay someone to be a hacker for me. It doesn't mean that we need to hack a website. No, it means that someone who can build things for us, but not become our part of team. We can call it the third parties that we can pay if we have the money, or also we can have some kind of thing if we are short on money to make an ITCP. We could also join in community with all other people in a cross discipline field of expertise who could manage to lead us into a better understanding in ITCP and also a successful one. That's why after the strategy has been assigned, we also has to prepare the tools and media as well, because as you know, in IT we can't do anything without our proper tools, which is the computer itself, but not only the computer but what is inside the computer. So we also need to have software. We don't also we also need the software, we also need the hardware, and also we need mostly the knowledge. So we could have a good application, such as one of the example we have Adobe. Now we have Adobe Creative Cloud, which needed by the before one, the hipster, to make an art. We also need something if we want to go 3D. We have this one. This is an open source. It's called Blender. It manipulate 3D objects as well. And also, in terms of our knowledge, for example, if we are going to make a computer task, we need to at least learn about the basic and the fundamental of CRUD, which is the create, read, update, and delete, which is the one algorithms in computer programming, as well as also understanding in multimedia distribution. And also for the hustler task, we need the creator based activity. And also we can do the standardized tools, or maybe an unorthodox way to use the media and tools. If we have finished it with the preparation, the strategy, and the tools, we also need to find opportunities. For example, we have Google Bangkit 2021. This is a program in Indonesia supported by the Ministry of Education. They give free programs for the students, especially university, to increase their skills in IT programming. You can learn more by googling about this. And for global, we also have a lot of courses that could help us on developing our skill, especially in ITCP skills. We also need to contribute more on our observation for the environments. We need to have our eyes open, our ear ready to hear about the environment that supports ITCP. Not only for the example before, the Google one, we also need to access a lot of information, such as we have Kedai Reka. Kedai Reka is also from an example in Indonesia where we can meet up with our soon-to-be investor to give us funding about our opportunity in ITCP. Maybe we have some idea for a startup. We can try to access Kedai Reka and try to give some presentation about our business. So it would be one of the greatest opportunity because Kedai Reka is one of the environments that support the ITCP and could also potentially lead us to the sustainable projects in the future. We also need to think about a venue to give us places, even that is a virtual, or better we could have physical spaces to meet up with our fellow enthusiasts, even if that is a large or small one, organized or unorganized, that would completely be fine as long as we have the opportunity to share with each other. We can also have some special exhibition. Some of us know that there has been a lot of opportunity in conference, in seminars, even free one that people are willing to share with us. We can also find opportunity in performance festival. Who said that we are when we are going to a concert that we will not get anything? Actually, we can get something. We can contribute and make collaboration with our fellow visitors in our same interest. We can try to discuss and probably we can have a lot of potential opportunity to increase our interest in ITCP. So that's why this would also become important roles to be a growing ITCP, especially ITCP in a community. We also need to foster our culture of ITCP, where we try to make a culture where we try to engage with each other and validate our knowledge in ITCP. We can have our own made-up culture. This is an example of this starting from a made-up culture called the startup culture. This is not one of the things that exists back in the 90s. We don't have what startup culture was, but this one is one of the initiation by uh, one people. If I'm not mistaken, it is one from the small computer small computer company that I think we all know now. One from a small garage that become a huge company, and the owner of that company has become the first richest person in the planet. Used to be. If you know Microsoft, Bill Gates, he's the one who also tries to initiate this startup culture where he make things in a small garage and it's become a big one. That's why it become a huge culture. Even that become a one known area. In US we have what it called Silicon Valley, where startups are gathering and try to make a culture. They are trying to make a culture that focus on the IT itself. We can also have one if we are uh, starting to make one. We can just take what kind of priority we would like to have. For me, myself, maybe I would like to go with authenticity. I would like to know that one of the best thing that I want to produce is one based on originality of my product, my application. That's why I would focus on authenticity. But it might come different with you guys. But the one thing that we know that we can make a culture where we can belong in that culture. We own that culture. but hopefully we are making a great culture. There is also a sample when we are trying to implement the ITCP. This one here is SDV, self-driving vehicle. This is introduced by Uber. It doesn't require us to have driver for our vehicle, for our transportation, but this still in experimental stage. It still are tested, so it would become one of the new ITCP that could conquer the world itself. So we also need to know that this is a huge potential, because this new concept could lead to the boundaries of IT and all other fields of study. We know that computer science has always been stimulated by other fields. It won't stand by itself, but it would always be stimulated by other fields and exploring new points of view and problems in all kinds of fields. For implementation, ITCP known that implementation that require funding. It won't start without funding, because this one of the primary needs. Even almost all of the field in the society need funding, but ITCP requires more, even that in the form of a direct or an indirect business funding. We can have a sum of money to be our capital for this ITCP implementation, and also indirect funding such as exposure or promotion from the media itself. You can also focus more in how to produce a profit, even though that our ITCP implementation is still on the first stage. If we don't have a lot of funding, then we can just try to produce profit, because that's one of the foundation of this ITCP. Also, we need to make sure that in ITCP we have inventional mind. We need to think ahead. We need also to think that creativity is not only difficult to define, but it is also something that has a lot of form, and and we know that creativity could also lead to the implementation, which we could say it's an easy way to be implemented, as long as we wanted to implement it. And also known that before, we need to have all of the things that we need to implement the ITCP itself. Complexity and the unknown territory of creativity should never become a hindrance for us to start in our ITCP. We can have an output as well, such as an intellectual products, uh, could also be divided into one. We can try to have a routine skilled activity, such as academic or research writing, or we can try to increase our skills by applying methods for problems and giving solution. This is to train our inventional mind, so we will be ready for ITCP. We will also need to know the advantage if we are going to use creativity. First one, we could have no sector of monopoly, which is a good thing, because if we are trying to do, we are trying to use monopoly as one of our primary strengths, we will be out of luck, because there has been too many monopoly that has been going on today, and there are no room for all. That's why by using creativity, we will leave no sector for a monopoly, which will become a more better situation for us to implement our IT uses in creative practice. We also know that we will have the advantage of outcome in form of new knowledge, because we know knowledge itself is one of the strengths, because nobody can steal it from us unless they kill us, and it will bury with us till the death do us apart. That's the advantage of creativity. Nobody can take it from us. We also will have the invention result that could improve our quality of life. We can become better when before we have vehicle, we are having difficulty to go somewhere. We need days to go to one city to another, but with the IT, with the vehicle that we have now, we can go to city by city in a matter of minutes. We will also have advantage of unique products and services. Thank God we have Disney Plus, we have Netflix. We don't have to go to the cinema now because of the pandemic. We can get infected by COVID. We have Netflix. We can just watch it at home in a more affordable price. That's why unique product and service has become one of the advantage of creativity. And we will also, what I described earlier, we will also have the new kind of cultural creativity, because this will become a creativity. But beware, cultural creativity should let us into a good side, not a bad side. Now let's talk about the creative industry. I think we all have heard about creativity industry. We have a lot of business, even huge business that influence the society today. Creative industries such as YouTube, we just make our own videos and it become a profit to us, and even a profit for them, bigger profit to them. It also affects the GDP, which is the gross domestic product for the country itself. And it's also become an official communication media for the government. It also caused a new job position. And in Indonesia, we have what we call employed on unemployed with income. That's what we call YouTuber, because from our point of view, YouTuber is not employed, but they have income, and that for me myself it's a good thing. That comes into domain of creative activity. So we know that creative industry is something that we made using IT. This is one of the theory that show us how creativity can be affected using technology. So we have what it called technology in the center of the gravity. We have we need this as one of the foundation, but we also need scientific parts, because we cannot develop the technology itself without this scientific part of the creativity. We also need the economic parts, because we have no money, we can't make technology. And we also need cultural creativity, because even though that we have the technology, if we have the culture that doesn't support us, that doesn't want to change the way they are using the technology, then we won't stand a chance. For example, we have Gojek back in the day. We used to have a demonstration, say no to Gojek, no online transportation. That's the Gojek, and it has become one of the problem that made online transportation become one of disadvantages to develop in the country. But we have passed beyond that. Now the people has become more supportive with the online transportation, but still in the current situation, there are still some people who doesn't want to support the advantage of technology. That's the case study of Gojek. So Gojek is a smart online transportation in Indonesia. Used to be a demonstration, but the huge part of the society in Indonesia support Gojek, so that's why it could be flourished, it could be sustainable until now. So the correlation that we need to know about the creativity domain, one, it is different but support and parallelly depends on each other. So it's like the triangle of flame, if you are familiar with it. uh, no part no part should be left behind because it all depends on each other. It's also a two-way interaction, so the part of creativity always do two-way. It can be economic and scientific, economic and culture, or culture and scientific, etc. It should be a two-way collaboration, not only one, but it also could become a three or four-way of interaction itself. So it also in the third way interact creates opportunity with the interaction. So when we are going with smart online transportation, we have a new opportunity. Oh, aside of getting customer, getting them somewhere safe, we can also transport food. That's why it creates more opportunity in the future. We now have smart online food transportation. We have a good transportation or courier, or better yet, we now have smart money to spend things without actually uh, making us have to take money from the ATM. We know that the domain of creativity has it roles, but information technology plays the most crucial roles because it affects directly to the creativity, and it holds the science, culture, and business creativity practice. It could uh, it could also become one of the enhancer for the all other domains. Creativity also mean a lot of thing when we are trying to implement it using the domain before. We also need to collaborate. As I described before, we need to collaborate in one kind of space, whether it is a physical or virtual space. We need to have a network. Usually we do it in the internet. We need to collaboration. For example, we need to have an artist, expert, designer, information technologies that also need to become one of the main foundation, the information technologies, the one who hold the IT. That's why IT need to be one of the main foundation. You cannot make an IT as supplementary. You need to make it a core needs to your ITCP. This type of practice should not be restricted by institutional constraints such as the government. No, incentive itself, even though that we need the funding, incentive should become the restriction to move forward. It also should not be restricted by intellectual property arrangement. That's why we have what we call Web 3.0, where we still think about the intellectual property, but we have the foundation of open sources that we can implement in our ITCP. We also shouldn't be restricted by funding policy that usually been done by the investor, because all of the restricted area could lead to a failure in ITCP. We can detect about all of the restriction that could hinder us, but one thing that could restrict the ITCP is the regulation, the regulation itself. But still, we have to make an ITCP strategy to provide a lot of solution in terms of a restriction that has been made by the elements of the society. But still, it doesn't mean that we have to do criminal things. No, but it's also one of the warnings that we need to do, because some of the ITCP leads into a criminal activity. That's what we have to stay away from. We also need to think about the personality, because this is also one of foundation that we need as ourselves. It's more than as a psychological things that we need as a person who trying to do ITCP. So what makes one action ordinary and another creative? So this is an answer and also a research by Dean Kit Simonton and his teams about the creativity by measuring cognitive, personal, and development and social aspects. So the part that make someone creative is, the first one is personality. It's also make someone who need to have independent personality. It's someone who is not comfort to do nothing. So it doesn't have to feel comfort at all in his safe zone. It needs to be someone who unconventional, even though that people bully him because of the why is this person do things that not rational. We need someone who have wide interest in development, because technology always change even in matter of seconds. It also needs someone who has the greater openness to new experience. So we need to be open with new things, like someone who has an invention. We shouldn't bully them. We should try to think, maybe this can work in some ways or another. We also need someone who is have a behavior, because behavior is also important. We can't make something work if we are trying to become a hustler who doesn't have a good behavior, because we know the social media today, one mistake on our mouth, it could lead to our failure, because if we try to bully someone, we might get punished by the society online by our mistakes by doing that. We also need to have flexibility, the same one as the openness, and also the risk talking boldness. So it is true that even ITCP has risk, and one of the leaders should have the risk taking boldness to try to at least mitigate, or even if the risk is taken and we get the risk, then we are bold enough to try to take the responsibility and to stand up again. Now for the systematical view of creativity, we have a social system that we need to take care of. Social system that I mentioned earlier, one mistake in our life could potentially hurt our future. That's why we need to focus on how we could behave. We have the personality that we could also make a new culture that doesn't make these two domains fight with each other. So this could lead to us as a person that creates harmony between the social system and culture. We need to make a genetic pool and personal experience that focus in the ITCP activity, because did it come to us as a leader, because this view of creativity would make us become a better ITCP person that could master the field, all field that needed to be mastered, and also all the domains that we talked earlier. We also need to have a team, creative people at work, a person who obtain creative skills through study. He or she will have a skill set that what we know in Indonesia, we have the principle of bisa karena biasa. We can do it because we do it every day, and also through collaboration. Some people can have an IT skills, but he combine it with his art skill. That's why he become a content creator, and that's creative people that we need to work with, because that's what we think is better for us. We also need to have a diverse expertise and skills. There are a lot of universally talented people, and we can be one of them. As long as we try to uh, study, and as a principle I say before, bisa karena biasa, we can do it because we do it every time, and we can become one of the universally talented people. We can also we need to focus on uh, multi-skilled sets that we can attain, or if we can attain, as long as we are able to recruit those kind of individuals, then we are ready for the ITCP. That's why there's also some saying that say move fast and travel light, means that we need to diverse with a lot of multi-skilled, fast, and travel without any burden at all. By doing so, we can try to master what the multi-skilled sets faster, then we can do our ITCP better. For the case study, maybe some of us who is interested in game may have heard about Stardew Valley. We have Stardew Valley, which is an individual game development that is one of the only one man army who has a skill set of this designer, programmer, and artist. He managed to make a game by himself, and it's a big hit. And you can look it online and see how great he made the game. If I'm not mistaken, his developer name is Concerned Ape. He is a good guy, and I think you guys should learn from him. Now comes to the cross disciplinary culture challenge, that we know if we are going to work in team, we need to uh, know that if we are going to work in teams, especially in global team, we have to face cultural challenges. So we need to give solution in communication, because not all of us has the proficiency in English. No, not all of us can communicate better, and not all of us can become a team player. So that's why we need to have solution in our uh, ITCP strategy first about communication, and also team play management, and also not only how to access the funding resources, but also how to manage the funding that we get. We can have some kind of funding from the government. For example, in Indonesia, we have funding for our small businesses, that we can ask the bank with some kind of insurance, or it could be different, as long as we see the opportunity to do it. We also need to face absence of framework. We may not have the framework yet, or the technology that is able to support us to do this kind of ITCP that we are looking for, but we could try to make one by ourselves. That's why IT person is one that we need. We also need to focus on the challenge in our projects, because uh, some of our projects could take a lot of time. For example, before the Stardew Valley, the individual games take about 5 to 7 years to finish, but it went pretty well, and it has become a great product in ITCP. the creative way of IT. We also need to focus on our main resources. We need to understand that skill training is a main source that we need to attain first. We need to develop ourselves, our teams, to acquire new capabilities and skills. We also have to remember that physical or digital is fine. Some of us in future generation, in generation X, Y, Z, we prefer using communication tools such as uh, Instagram, or maybe some group chat in WhatsApp and other things that we use online. We can also try to uh, get a lot of other various social platform, especially when you're going into IT programming. You need something like GitHub for your system and also discussion, and try to collaborate with each other. We also need the hardware and software to support creative work. We have for example, we need software such as automation software for multimedia. We can have Adobe Animate that could help us as the part of the art department on our ITCP to make things that become a content for our ITCP, to promote our ITCP. We can also have integrated. We also need to have integrated system to handle and showing information, and we also need a communication and information infrastructure. For example, here you can look up in internet. For example, Hosting Rakyat. This is one of the small companies that provide infrastructure for system host, especially in website hosting that we usually use to uh, give us information about our products or our content or our media that we want other to see. You can look it up online, and also you can try to focus on the hardware and software support using creative work in other ways that could also be accessed. Hopefully we can get an access for an open source access, because that would be much cheaper. This is also an example for ITCP technologies. Over the decade, we have networks, computer games, MMORPG. We have uh, character creation to try to digitalize ourselves. We have not only one, not only two, but massive multiplayer. A lot of people in the same time in the same games. We have digital entertainment. We have for today. I love Disney Plus. I love Netflix to watch movies and to entertain myself. We also have specialty technology in venues such as theme park using robotics. We have motion-based art, console, creative, virtual reality, augmented reality, digital production, developments of haptic devices that we can use for other things, and also entertainment through our robotics technology. We also have economic advantages, such as how outcome ITCP become one of the best way to be one of the weapon for us, because one thing that we need to know that when we are facing ITCP, some kind of technologies is need to be paid. We call it premium. But one thing we have to remember that uh, premium one is not always better, because sometimes we have some kind of vision that we paid, so we think that the product is good. It's not always like that. But still, if we are going to focus on our ITCP for our safety measurement, we could go with the premium one. We also have a saying in Indonesia that say in Indonesia we have ada harga ada rupa. They have the product and it has the price of the product. So the price of the product become the face of the product itself. If it is cheaper, then it could become something that is not good. Or even if free meant it won't be a good value for us. So a good choice for us if we are going to use ITCP softwares or hardwares that we still uh, be having a principle in pay to use application for safety measurement. But if you are not, you have analyzed all the things that we need, then it's fine to choose an open source application. We also can uh, focus on our economic realities problems by having indirect payment alternative to help and support our ITCP, such as collaborational software use. We can try to promote the software by using them and promote it to our audience in the internet, or we can have some educational MOU licenses, such as we know that Google provide educational licenses for free using their products, or we can have a contract to do profit sharing when for example we have Unreal Engine. They have profit sharing contract that allow us to make our games before and try to make profit, and when we have profit then they are taking some of the shares, which is a win and win solution for us as well, because when we are going bigger they are become bigger by themselves too. So the economic realities would become one of the burden itself, but it shouldn't be a big problem as long as we have the solution. Another case study why we have to face the economic realities, because we have studio for electro instrument music or STEM. It subsidizes people who are using art in music. They create new instrument using sensors. They subsidize the cost of engineering sensor system for even for people who need the sensor itself to make music, to make a new technology that support the instrumental music. But one thing that they didn't aware that they are not sustainable. And uh, from what I heard in their Facebook page, they are going to shut down because they doesn't have any other investor to support them, and that may become some sad news to all, because if we made a wrong move in our ITCP, we could also end up like them. So it is best to know the reality of the economic before we start the ITCP first. We also have a case study for Python. This is one of the successful one because this is more contributional. They give their programming for free for us to study and make a lot of ITCP. So even they give us introduction using Alice, which is a 3D interactive graphics programming environment to help us learn. And this has become a powerful tool to teach us about the environment of the program of the Python, the gaming, web service, the teaching, and also collaborational support and research. And we may look up today, the Python become one of the favorite programming language that has produced a lot of application and system that help us today, especially in gaming. So this is one of the product that help us in Python, the Alice programming. So that's all for our discussion, our topics for the first meeting. Maybe I would like to give you some discussion that we could discuss later about after this course, what is your idea to implement in individual or team project? And what do you think you need to do to start this project? And that would become one of our conclusion for this meeting. You can also read the references about this meeting. You can look up the book and also discuss with your friends about these meetings, and you can also get this presentation material in the website. Thank you very much for your attention. I will see you again in the next meeting. Thank you and bye bye.